Hello, this is my final project on tubular steel and the chairs of Bauhaus, exploring innovations of utilitarian design emerging from pre-war Germany. So basically from the beginning of when this project was introduced, I kind of knew I wanted to make a small book with visuals on how things were made, and I struggled with finding a specific cultural foundation for my work for a while before choosing the Bauhaus. And I was also interested in functional objects. So while doing my research, furniture seemed like a good choice for me and was something that I found to be a really interesting example and story of innovation in Bauhaus, specifically with the integration of tubular steel in their furniture. The architect Walter Gropius was really the driving force behind the formation of the Bauhaus and reinvigorating the Weimar school that already existed before him. And in the Bauhaus Manifesto, he laid out his ideas and objectives for the school to be a integration of the arts and a utopia for creative exploration. The school's ability to create new forms of furniture and other utilitarian objects was really just a testimony to how multifaceted the school was and open to all sorts of modes of creativity. The Bauhaus was established in 1919 and was between the World Wars when Germany was forming a new national identity. During the Weimar Republic, it actually celebrated the arts, and so this was a great condition for the Bauhaus to exist. Bicycles were becoming a really popular mode of transportation at this time, and of course, they have a steel frame and steel production at the turn of the 20th century had a lot of new innovation, including the production of seamless steel tubing and electroplating. A lot of these arose from new industries in aviation and automobiles. Michael Sonnet played an important role in the history of modern furniture because he figured out how to use steam to bend wood into these elegant and organic forms. And these curvilinear forms were kind of a precursor to the later Art Nouveau movement. Um, and he also created collections of furniture and kind of was a pioneer of mass production, which was also important to the Bauhaus. And it's kind of funny because the Thonic Company would later be the producer and distributor of a lot of Bauhaus steel furniture and cantilever chairs. The Art Nouveau was a pretty significant movement that lasted right at the turn of the 20th century for about 30 years. Young and Steel is just the German version of the movement, which was influenced by naturalism and the arts and crafts movement. A lot of the forms are somewhat romanticized and didn't quite have a machine age look, unlike the Art Deco, which came a little bit later. And really, the Art Deco took off in America in the 1930s, the Chrysler Building being a good example of it. You can see kind of the more chrome plating and metal ornamentation that's involved in Art Deco, and I sort of think of it as the Great Gatsby aesthetic. The Deutscher Werkbund is pretty important to Bauhaus because it's where a lot of these architects and designers in Germany worked together to kind of reinvigorate the German economy, and it's where a lot of important connections were made. Important figures included Gropius's mentor, Peter Behrens, Henry van de Velde, who had the Weimar School before it became Bauhaus. This little panel on the bottom shows the different styles of the members in comparison with the traditional woodworking, and I thought it was appropriate because of the chairs. And the other photo is Herbert Byers of the Bauhaus showing a space of the workbund, and you can see the steel tubular furniture in the back there. The Bauhaus had a short but interesting history, and it spent half of its time in Weimar and then moved to Dessau. And over the years, it shifted its focus more towards industry in the latter years. The preliminary course was a really fundamental part of Bauhaus teaching and taught students the basics of form and color and really encouraged them to open up their creative potential through material studies, and this later led to explorations in the workshops. You can see the continuation of the exploration of form and geometric shapes in the metalworks of the Bauhaus, and also how these products kind of shifted from a more artistic standpoint to a more consumer goods standpoint. Again, you can see the exploration of form in the Bauhaus Furniture Studio and their attempt to break away from the traditional style. On the bottom right is a Marcel Breuer chair, and we see his experimentations with wood and how he tries to integrate it into modernism. Then there is the Joseph Albers chair, which is also exploring the capabilities of wood and bent wood. The two workshops kind of merged with the advent of steel tubing and furniture, which was a pretty incredible integration, and they actually consolidated the workshops later on within the umbrella of interior design in Bauhaus. Mart Stem had the idea for the cantilever chair in 1926, and it was a pretty radical idea at the time. You can see his initial prototype with gas tubing here as a framework. He attended a workbund meeting that year in 1926 where he showed a sketch of his concept with some of the Bauhaus people, and they took his idea and made their own versions of it. One of those people was Marcel Breuer, and Stam and him got into a lawsuit that Stam eventually won with the rights to the cantilever chair, while Breuer was granted the rights to the introduction of tubular steel in furniture. From his prototype, Stam was able to create the S43 chair, which was kind of a important foundation for this type of furniture and established the body of work that was to come from it. Marcel Breuer was the most prolific furniture maker of the Bauhaus and is well known for his Wassily chair, which is a good example of the spirit of innovation, since it's really the first moment that steel tubing and furniture were conceptualized together. Breuer got this idea while riding on his Adler bicycle. He was inspired by the lightweight properties and the durable frame of the bike. Breuer created his own company to produce this chair and eventually sold it to Thonet, who would become the main developer and supplier of this kind of furniture. Mies van der Rohe was a very important figure in modern architecture with an influential body of work, and he was also the last director of Bauhaus until 1933. His MR chair collection has these elegant curves and legs that are inspired and are similar to a rocking chair. After the Nazis disbanded the Bauhaus, Walter Gropius and eventually Marcel Breuer came to the United States to teach at the Harvard Graduate School of Design. which is cool because it's pretty close to here. Gropius built a house in Lincoln um, that has kind of an interesting design with this exterior spiral staircase. And it also has a great collection of original Bauhaus works and art. And in these works, you can see kind of the original manufacturing of the steel tubing and joints and the prototypes, and you can get a really good understanding of the original work that you don't see in the main production line. The Bauhaus just celebrated its centennial, and the Harvard Art Museums had this great exhibition. They have a fantastic collection of art, which I was fortunate enough to see last year. And it's something that I'm continually interested in, its legacy of history and design. So, although I would have liked to have turned this in sooner, I'm happy that I picked this topic because I found the work engaging and I'm happy with the way my final project turned out.